James Maddison has signed for Tottenham Hotspur. There he is playing with his darts. And if you are a Tottenham Hotspur fan, I am willing to bet cash money that you are already excited about this prospect. But thing is, if that excitement level is at like a 5 or a 6, if it's in the sort of like, ooh, what a good bit of business territory, I'm here to tell you that's not enough. I'm going to need you to bump that up all the way to like an 8 or a 9 excitement level, because James Maddison for Tottenham Hotspur might be the best bit of business of the summer. For real, for real. Alright, so before I start, full disclosure, I am a Newcastle United fan, and I am not one of the ones who's going to pretend like I didn't want him in the first place. I am gutted. But the thing is, as well as some Newcastle United fans trying to mask their disappointment, there are also fans of other clubs saying things like, yeah, Maddison's good, but he's not quite at that top elite sort of level. He's not in that bracket. He just gets overhyped because he's English. That's the position you want to take. Absolutely fine, but let's look at some facts, shall we? If we look in the Premier League last season at the combined number of goals and assists by players, James Maddison ranks 13th. Now that's not an amazing start. I would argue being in a team that got relegated that was pretty rubbish all season and still coming 13th is pretty good. Like, if you look at the players around him, they're all playing for like top 4, top 6 sides who had good seasons basically, and he didn't, so it's not bad, but also, yeah, it's not amazing. But if we instead look across the last 2 seasons combined for both goals and assists, all of a sudden he jumps up to 6th. And yes, the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that Haaland should also still be in the 2-year thing, because he got so many last season it still puts him in the top bracket for 2, but he didn't play in that season, so I'm not going to count him. You don't need that graph to tell you that Erling Haaland is good. That's not what we're here for. But alright, maybe it's only 2 seasons, maybe that's still not convincing enough for you. Let's look at 3 seasons for combined goals and assists, and Maddison is now 5th. It's Kane, Saka, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Maddison. That is an elite bracket. What about the last 4 seasons? He's still 5th behind Kane, Saka, De Bruyne, and Fernandes. That is still like the top table of goals and assists. If I know, let's not stop there. Let's look at 5 years. Let's look at the entire time he's been at Leicester City. Since he joined that club, he is 4th for the combined goals and assists in the Premier League. You cannot not be impressed by that, surely. Just to put that in black and white for you so you can clip it and send it to your idiot friends who still don't rate him. Since James Maddison signed for Leicester City, only Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, and Harry Kane have contributed more goals and assists in the Premier League. So let's have a little look at why, shall we? Now, Leicester City did a number of different things last year, but they by and large used this 4-2-3-1, and James Maddison was mostly here, but was also sometimes here. And if we look at his heat map across the entire season, that is exactly what you would expect from a really good number 10 who's a side creative focal point, who's got a lot of freedom to go do whatever he wants, to get on the ball, to make things happen, who is trusted by his manager to create. And also, this is very funny, you can see there's 2 big red dots in the corners because he takes most of their corner kicks, but you can also see there's a big red dot in the centre circle because Leicester conceded so many goals last season that him taking the kickoffs actually shows up on the heat map. I shouldn't, if you're a Leicester fan, I'm sorry, I really shouldn't laugh, but I just noticed that and thought, that's funny, innit? So anyway, yes, the reason James Maddison has this much freedom across the pitch, the reason he is so trusted by his managers is because he is excellent at getting on the ball, he's excellent at finding pockets of space, he's excellent at recognising situations developing around him and finding the right position and the right pass to turn that into a chance. And he can do that a number of different ways, like his passing is excellent over both short and medium distances. When he gets into dangerous areas and you've only got to go 5, 10, possibly 15 yards to make something happen, fewer better. And his just control and general ability is really good as well, so he can beat a player with his first touch, he can drive past them with pace or with trickery, and he gets fouled a lot in this sort of area as well, which means that defenders absolutely hate him. Just going to show you his stats from FBref here because they made my head fall off. Again, bearing in mind how bad Leicester were last season, to be posting those sort of numbers, to be ranking that highly for these really important metrics is just nuts. The really interesting one here though for Spurs fans is the progressive passes, because Leicester spent a lot of that season defending, being locked into their own half, and Maddison was still moving the ball forward almost every single chance that he got. And the reason that's important is because last season Spurs were quite bad at progressive passes. They went sideways and backwards an awful lot for the amount of possession that they had. Like that Maddison stat, the number of progressive passes he made across the season beat every other Spurs player except for Højbjerg. But the thing about Højbjerg is, because he sits so deep when he sees the ball a lot more, he made something like double the number of passes Maddison did over a season, and then is only fractionally ahead of him in terms of the progressive ones. So that's an area they really needed to work on, and Maddison's just natural at it. But that's the thing, isn't it? It's all well and good going and buying a player who can do all this and can do all that, and he does assists and he does goals and he's going blah 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 blah, etc, etc. Doesn't matter one bit unless it works for what you are trying to do. And the reason Spurs fans, you probably, need to be that excited about Maddison is Ange Postecoglu could not have gone and got a better player for himself if he'd built it in a Frankenstein lab using just bits of old Celtic players. So how do you make this player here work in a system where that player doesn't exist? Well, seamlessly, as it turns out. So look, we don't know exactly how Ange Postecoglu is going to set Tottenham up. I think they're going to be something like his Celtic team, but obviously nowhere near as sort of aggressive, because he can't dominate teams in the Premier League the way he was dominating them in the SPL. So it'll be a version of that. It'll have the same sort of fundamentals and principles and stuff like that, just not quite as gung-ho. And that means it'll still probably be, instead of a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, with these two 8s being really important. Now, what Postecoglu likes to do is he wants his wide players to stay as wide as possible to create this sort of space in the channels for these two players to push right the way up and get alongside the centre forward. This then gets your holding midfielder to push up a bit, and you get this nice little sort of passing triangle to rotate possession. And the fullbacks, their job is not to get on the overlap, but they also want to get into the space that's been left, and they provide crosses, they provide a counter press threat, they go into the middle as well. Now, I appreciate this is just a Subbuteo pitch and not real life, but you can already see from this that your two number 8s are actually playing a lot higher up. They're sort of in that sort of zone that Maddison likes to be in. But the reason why James Maddison is such a perfect buy is not because he can be a number 8 and he can push forward. It's because of, again, how much trust managers have in him and how good he is at recognising gaps and spaces and getting into them. He will likely be how this Tottenham team differs from the Celtic team, in that he will still be free to go pretty much anywhere. And what's important about that is they've got Kulusevski tied down, they want to try and get the best out of Son again. This system is kind of a waste of them because there's not really that much impetus for them to get in the box. The fullbacks aren't going to make overlapping runs, they tend not to join in the play except to put other people in. But if you've got James Maddison, a player who you trust implicitly to go do whatever he wants, he can move out into these flanks. He does it brilliantly for Leicester, and that will allow your Sons and your Kulusevskis to get in and support Harry Kane, because he'll go and play where they've left the gap. And when he's not doing that, because he still offers a goal threat, if he is the one who ends up getting in the box, then that's absolutely fine. His close control is brilliant, he's a good finisher, his link-up play in tight areas is excellent. He's the right kind of player to have floating around a centre forward, but also someone who can move around, create space, and allow other attackers to get in. But what's going to really make this work, and something I don't think James Maddison gets enough credit for, is there was a very good reason why loads of teams started changing from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3 so they could get more control in the middle of the pitch, and Leicester didn't do that, was because he's very capable of dropping back out of that number 10 position and just getting involved, getting in the middle, like having little passing link-ups with his other two midfielders, receiving the ball from deep and then carrying it. Like, he doesn't just progress the ball with his passing, he progresses it with his running as well. But, and this is why I'm particularly excited about this for Tottenham, you probably do, if you're going to give a player in that position all the trust and freedom to go wherever he wants to receive the ball, you need to kind of have a counterweight to that in central midfield, who's really positionally aware, who works hard, who's got great drive, who can go and fill the gaps that his creativity is leaving. And in Bentancur, Spurs already have the absolute perfect other number 8 to complement Maddison. Like, I know he's not going to be fit for the start of the season, and they probably imagine it's Basuma and Højbjerg will sit there and they'll do all the really dirty work and all the tidy stuff in the middle. But if you've got Maddison going anywhere he wants to receive the ball and sort of impact the play, Bentancur's drive and his determination and his positioning will cover any single hole he leaves. Like, that is possibly one of the most exciting midfield threes in the Premier League next season, if it all clicks. And that's what makes this transfer so good, by the way, because the whole problem with Spurs last season was they were simultaneously an Antonio Conte team without actually being an Antonio Conte team. He wanted to fill them with direct runners and just workhorses and just like battle his way up the Premier League and into the European positions, but he never really was allowed to buy the right players for that. He got a handful of them and the rest was just sort of club signings, and now they've got this mishmash of a team that kind of is supposed to play one way but doesn't, and wants to play this other way but can't. And now you've got Maddison. All of a sudden, all the players you've still got work. They've got a player who can get into the number 10 position and put goals on a plate for Harry Kane. They've got a player who can drift into the wide areas to allow Son and Kulusevski to get much closer to the goal. You've got someone who can drop back into the midfield and allow them to have numerical superiority and just nice passing triangles around a lot of other teams in the league. And you've got someone who can drop back near the defence, receive the ball off them, so they don't even necessarily need a really good ball-playing centre-back. They can just give it to him. And without James Maddison, you've got a centre-forward who's starved of service. You've got two wide players who have nobody to really link up with. You've got a midfield that can't compete against the big teams and defenders who can't play the ball well enough to help. You see what I mean? If you're at a 5 or a 6, oh, it's a good bit of business. Oh, 40 million. That's not bad, is it? Genuinely, up that as much as you want. He's a great buy. And also, just away from the stats and numbers, I have friends who are Spurs fans, and it doesn't feel like it's been a lot of fun being a Spurs fan for a number of years now. You haven't had players who, even when the results have been going well, the performances haven't, and the players don't seem to have... There's nobody who really gets you off your seat anymore other than Kane. There's nobody who, when they get on the ball, you feel an element of excitement with, like they had with Eriksen, for example, or when Dele Alli was playing at his absolute best. There's nobody who gets you excited to watch football. And James Maddison really, really does. So I think even just away from the numbers and the stats and what you can do on the pitch, it's a really good signing for a club that desperately needed, like, just a bit of an uplift. So, there you go, Tottenham Hotspur fans. Are you excited about James Maddison? And if not, did you hear a word I just said? Please get it in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It's FourFourTwo. It's the world's greatest footballing YouTube channel. We'll be doing these breakdowns all through the summer, and then when the season starts, my god, I will need more hours in the day. Until then, though, thank you very much for watching. I can't wait to go open a window now that I've finished filming this. I've been Adam Cleary. I will see you soon. Bye bye.